My name is Daniel, and if you had asked me just a year ago, I would have sworn on my life that my wife, Claire, was my soulmate. We'd been married for 8 years, and in that time, I thought we had built something unshakable. We had our routines, our inside jokes, even the little fights that always ended with us laughing in each other's arms. I was sure, so sure, that nothing could come between us. But love has a cruel way of blinding you to the truth. It all started with subtle changes. Claire became distant. She'd smile less. Her laughter didn't come as easily. And sometimes she'd stare off into the distance like she was living somewhere I couldn't reach. At first, I told myself it was stress. She was working late more often, and her job at the design firm had been demanding. I tried to be supportive. I'd cook dinner, clean the house, leave little notes in her bag. I thought I was being the husband she needed. But the truth? The truth was sitting there in front of me the whole time. I just refused to see it. One evening, I came home earlier than usual. Claire wasn't expecting me. I opened the front door quietly, hoping to surprise her. Instead, it was me who got the surprise. Her phone was on the coffee table, buzzing with a message. Normally, I wouldn't snoop, but something about the way she had left it face down, almost hidden, tugged at me. The screen lit up. "Can't wait to see you tonight, Jason." My heart stopped. Jason? I felt a rush of heat flood my body, a mix of anger, fear, and denial. Who the hell was Jason? A colleague? A friend? Or something more? I picked up the phone, my hands trembling. My gut told me not to, but I couldn't stop myself. I scrolled through the messages, each one slicing deeper than the last. "Last night was amazing. You looked stunning in that dress. Wish you were here in my arms right now." My stomach churned. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone, was speaking to another man the way she used to speak to me. That night, when she came home, I said nothing. I wanted to. God knows I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but I couldn't. Not yet. I needed proof. I needed to be sure. Over the next few days, I became a detective in my own marriage. I watched her closely, her excuses, her sudden need to work late, the way she guarded her phone like it was a piece of her soul. And each sign pointed to the same ugly truth. Claire was slipping away from me, into the arms of another man. The breaking point came one Friday evening. She said she had to stay at the office late for a big project. Something in me snapped. I told her I'd pick her up, just to surprise her, but she quickly shut me down. Too quickly. So instead, I followed her. I felt like a madman, driving slowly behind her car, my palms sweating as I tried to keep my distance. She didn't drive to her office. She didn't even head downtown. No. She pulled up to a fancy restaurant across town, and waiting at the entrance was him. Jason. Tall, dark-haired, confident. He greeted her with the kind of smile a man gives a woman he's already claimed. And then, I saw it. She leaned into him. Their lips met. My chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. In that moment, my world collapsed. Everything I thought I knew about my marriage, about Claire, about us, it was all a lie. She wasn't working late. She wasn't stressed. She was with him. I gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Rage surged through me, but underneath the anger was something worse, heartbreak. I wanted to burst out of the car, drag her away from him, scream until the whole world knew what she had done. But I didn't. I sat there, frozen, watching as the woman I loved walked hand in hand with another man into that restaurant, laughing like she hadn't laughed with me in months. And in that moment, I made myself a promise. If Claire thought she could walk out with another man and leave me broken, she was wrong. Dead wrong. Because one day, she would cry. She would beg for forgiveness. And when that day came, it would be on my terms. I didn't know how yet, but I knew this. I wasn't going to let Claire get away with betraying me. The night I saw Claire with Jason, I barely slept. My head spun with images of them together, her laugh, her smile, the way she leaned into him. It haunted me. By sunrise, I wasn't just heartbroken. I was furious. I kept replaying everything in my mind. The excuses, the late nights, the lies. And the worst part? She probably thought she was clever. She probably thought I was too naive, too trusting to notice. She underestimated me. The next morning at breakfast, Claire acted like nothing had happened. She sat across from me in her robe, sipping coffee, scrolling through her phone. My phone. The one I had paid for. Rough night? She asked casually, not looking up. I forced a smile. Yeah. Couldn't sleep much. She shrugged, completely unfazed. It was almost insulting. I wanted to confront her right then and there. To slam my fists on the table and shout, I saw you with him. But something inside me held back. Not yet. I wanted her to feel the same helplessness she had made me feel. I wanted her to live in fear of being exposed, to taste the bitterness of betrayal dripping into her perfect little eyes. So I played along. Over the next week, I acted like the loving, clueless husband. I kissed her on the cheek before work, asked about her day, even cooked her favorite pasta one night. She smiled at me, thanked me, but I could see it. Her eyes were elsewhere. With him. But I wasn't idle. While she thought I was busy with work, I was busy with something else. Gathering evidence. I checked the car mileage when she said she only went to the office. I tracked the receipts she carelessly left in her purse, expensive wine, fancy dinners, hotels. And most importantly, I installed a small app on her phone when she left it charging one night. Now, every time she texted Jason, I saw it too. At first, the messages burned me alive. I miss you already. He doesn't suspect a thing. I wish I could just run away with you. Reading those words, knowing they were about me, cut deeper than any knife. But then, an idea began to form. If she wanted to live a double life, I would show her what it felt like when the truth came crashing down. The first step was simple. I had to keep her guessing. One evening, she said she was heading out with her friend Sophie. Of course, I knew that was a lie. Her text with Jason told me they were meeting at a hotel. So I looked at her, smiled, and said, Great. I'll give Sophie a call later to check in on you too. The way her face froze, it was priceless. Her eyes flickered for just a second, panic flashing across her features, before she forced a laugh. Oh, don't bother. We'll probably be busy catching up. I just nodded. Sure, honey. Have fun. She walked out the door, but not before giving me one last look. She knew something was off. She just didn't know what, and that was exactly how I wanted it. The next few days, I continued planting little seeds of doubt. I'd casually mention seeing her favorite perfume at a store, knowing Jason had just texted her about how amazing she smelled the night before. I'd ask, Hey, isn't your office downtown? After she claimed she was working late, but her GPS location said otherwise. She started getting restless, nervous. Her lies weren't landing as smoothly anymore. One night, as she sat on the couch texting furiously, I walked past and casually asked, Who's Jason? Her entire body went stiff. She dropped the phone into her lap and looked up at me, wide-eyed. What? Jason? Who's Jason? I tilted my head, pretending to think. Oh, maybe I'm confusing names. Thought I heard you mention him before. I watched her swallow hard before forcing a smile. Nope. Don't know any Jason. I smiled back. Guess I was wrong then, but I knew I wasn't. And from the way her hands shook when she picked her phone back up, she knew that I knew something. Still, I didn't pounce. Not yet. I wanted her to stew in that fear, to question how much I had seen, how much I had heard, and how close she was to being caught. But deep down, even as I played this dangerous game, there was still a part of me that hoped she would confess. That she would look me in the eye, admit her mistake, and beg me for another chance. Instead, she doubled down. The following Friday, she told me she had a team meeting and wouldn't be home until late. I kissed her cheek and wished her good luck, but inside, I was boiling, because I knew where she was going. This time, I decided not to just watch from a distance. This time, I followed her all the way into that hotel. And as I stood there in the hallway, outside the very room where my wife was betraying me, my hand hovering over the doorknob, I had to decide, was tonight the night I finally exposed her? The hotel hallway smelled of expensive cologne and polished wood, but all I could smell was betrayal. My heart pounded so hard it echoed in my ears, drowning out the muffled laughter spilling from behind the door. Claire's laughter. I clenched my fists, my whole body trembling. My wife, the woman who once promised to love me, for better or worse, was in there with him. For a moment, I stood frozen. Do I barge in? Do I throw the door open and catch them in the act? Or do I walk away, pretend I never saw, never knew? But then I remembered the messages, the dinners, the lies. No, walking away wasn't an option anymore. I lifted my hand and knocked. Firm, sharp. There was a sudden hush inside. Whispering. Movement. The sound of sheets rustling. Then, finally, the door creaked open. And there she was. Claire. My wife. Her hair was a little messy, her cheeks flushed, wearing a silk robe that I had never seen before. The second her eyes landed on me, the color drained from her face. Daniel? She whispered, her voice barely audible. Behind her, I saw him. Jason. Shirtless, smug, completely unashamed. He leaned against the headboard like he owned her. My blood boiled. Well, I said, my voice low, almost calm. So this is the team meeting? Claire's lips parted, but no words came out. She stood there frozen, caught between me and the man she had chosen to betray me with. Jason smirked. Guess the cat's out of the bag, huh? That arrogance, it made me want to break something. I stepped into the room, pushing past Claire. Don't talk to me, I snapped at him. This isn't about you. This is between me and my wife. Claire grabbed my arm, her voice trembling. Daniel, please, let me explain. I yanked my arm away. Explain? What's left to explain, Claire? I saw the messages. I saw the dinners. And now, I gestured toward the bed. Now I see everything. Her eyes filled with tears, but still, she tried. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. Don't. I cut her off, my voice shaking with rage. Don't insult me with excuses. Jason chuckled under his breath, clearly enjoying the scene. She was never happy with you, man. Maybe if you'd treated her better. I spun on him so fast he flinched. Shut your mouth before I shut it for you. For once, his smirk faltered. I turned back to Claire, my throat burning. 8 years, Claire. 8 years I gave you everything I had. And you threw it away for this. Tears rolled down her cheeks now. She reached for me, but I stepped back. Her hands hovered in the air, desperate, but powerless. Daniel, I made a mistake, she sobbed. I wasn't thinking clearly. I just felt so alone, and Jason was there. My laugh was hollow, bitter. A mistake? No, Claire. Forgetting an anniversary is a mistake. Burning dinner is a mistake. Sneaking around behind my back for months isn't a mistake. It's a choice. Her sobs grew louder, her knees buckling until she sank onto the edge of the bed. Jason stayed silent now, finally realizing he wasn't as untouchable as he thought. I paced the room, my anger boiling over. You could have come to me. You could have told me you were unhappy. We could have fought. We could have worked it out. Or hell, we could have split. But this? I gestured wildly at the scene before me. This is unforgivable. Claire buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking. Please, Daniel, don't leave me. I'll end it. I'll never see him again. Just don't walk away from us. For a second, just a second, my chest tightened. This was the woman I had once loved more than life itself. The woman I dreamed of growing old with. Hearing her beg cut deeper than the betrayal itself. But then I saw Jason's phone on the nightstand, screen glowing with a message. My curiosity got the better of me. I picked it up, unlocked it easily. She had texted him just before I arrived. He has no idea. I'll tell him eventually, but right now, I just want you. The words stared back at me, sharp as daggers. I tossed the phone onto the bed. No idea, huh? I spat. Well, now I do. Claire sobbed harder, reaching for me again. Daniel, please. I don't love him. I love you. I was confused. My voice cracked with both rage and pain. You knew exactly what you were doing every time you walked out that door. Every time you lied to my face. Don't you dare stand there and call it confusion. The silence that followed was suffocating. Jason shifted uncomfortably, clearly realizing the fun was over. I straightened, my voice cold and final. You made your choice, Claire. And now I'll make mine. Her tear-filled eyes met mine, full of terror. Daniel, what are you going to do? I looked at her, at him, at the wreckage of what used to be my marriage. And for the first time, I smiled. Wait and see. Because in that moment, I knew I wasn't just going to leave her. I was going to make her regret every second she spent with him. After I walked out of that hotel room, the air felt heavier, like the world had thickened around me. The betrayal was no longer a blur. It was sharp, precise, and pulsing. I sat in my car for a long time, the engine running, staring at my hands. They trembled, not just from rage, but from the cold clarity that had settled inside me. I could have left that night, gone straight to a friend's place or checked into a cheap motel and waited for the pain to dull. But something darker had taken root in me, the need for justice. Not the legal kind, at least, not yet. The kind that would make Claire actually feel the damage she'd done. The kind that would make her beg for forgiveness so hard it would strip away any of the lies she'd wrapped herself in. Call it revenge. Call it control. Call it whatever you want. I needed her to understand what it felt like to be abandoned and humiliated. The next morning, I woke up and did something I never thought I would. I made a plan. First, I secured the proof I already had. I printed the messages from Jason, the reservations, the hotel receipts. I copied screenshots of the GPS locations and the text exchanges that made my stomach drop. I put them in a folder and sat on them like a gambler guarding his last chips. But proof alone wouldn't make her fall apart. I had to control the narrative, the way this truth would hit her. It needed to be public enough to leave no wiggle room, private enough to hurt her where it mattered most. I called Lisa. Her voice was sharp with worry. "Are you okay?" she asked. "No," I said honestly, "but I'm not going to let this destroy me." "Then what are you going to do?" she asked. I laid out a plan that sounded insane even as I said it. "We're not exposing her right away. We'll build pressure. Small things. A breadcrumb trail that makes her paranoid. Then, when she least expects it, we'll pull the rug." Lisa didn't hesitate. "I'm in. Whatever you need, I'm there." That afternoon, I started with smaller psychological moves. Nothing illegal. Nothing that would turn a jury against me. I called Claire's boss and asked casually about a project she'd been working on. I mentioned how stressed she sounded and dropped in a line about work-life balance. I sent a message through a mutual friend suggesting a girls' night to check in on her. Little nudges that would make her question how many people knew she was distracted. She started to flinch. The first time she flinched, I felt something like satisfaction, like a sip of cold water in a desert. She grew jumpy at calls, protective over her phone, more careful with who she texted. I watched the fortress she'd built around her lies begin to show cracks. Then I escalated. I booked a reservation at the same restaurant where I'd seen them, but under a fake name. I didn't go, at least not at first. Instead, I made sure a mutual acquaintance accidentally saw Claire and Jason there and mentioned it casually in front of other people. Gossip is a contagious thing. It spreads, mutates, and eventually becomes real even without proof. I let it simmer. But I also had another weapon: empathy. It sounds strange, but I knew she would never expect the man she'd hurt to show restraint. So I began to act like the man she thought I was, the forgiving, reasonable husband. I asked her about her day, made coffee, smiled with a warmth she found disarming. I wanted her to lower her guard so that when reality hit, it would hit harder. One night, she came home later than usual. Her eyes were red, but she tried to play it off as exhaustion. I met her at the front door and kissed her forehead like nothing had happened. "Rough day?" I asked. She nodded, collapsed in the chair tired. "Yeah, so much to do." "I made dinner," I said. "Your favorite. We can talk after." She leaned into me for a moment, and I felt the old muscle memory, how she used to rest against me. It hurt, and it helped. I kept my cool. That weekend, I set the trap that would change everything. Anna, Claire's unknowing vulnerability, and my unexpected lie had come back into play. I'd texted her pretending to be someone else, testing if she'd slip. When she did, I used it to plan the final reveal. The night of the reveal, everything had to be perfect. I knew Claire's patterns now. The perfume she liked, the jacket she'd leave in the hallway, the time she usually left for Jason. I timed my moves to the minute. I showed up at the restaurant, not to confront, but to document. I sat at a corner table where I could see the whole room. I ordered nothing at first. My hands were steady as I took photographs from a distance, quietly, methodically. People walked by. Laughter floated around me. The world went on, indifferent. When they arrived, hand in hand again, the world narrowed. I stayed calm. Let them have the illusion of safety. Let them laugh and kiss and believe the world would keep their secret. It was intoxicating to know what they didn't. Then, at the precise moment I'd planned, when they least expected it, I did something I never thought I'd do. I stood up, walked to their table, and in a voice loud enough for the room to hear, I said, "Claire, Jason, care to explain this?" Heads turned. Utter silence followed. Claire went pale. Jason's face hardened. The hum of the restaurant tilted into a charged stillness. I watched her mouth open and close like a fish. "You're making a scene," Jason muttered, trying to draw her away. I smiled. A small, cold thing. "No. I'm finishing what you started. You walked out with him, Claire. The world deserves to know." People leaned in. Phones came out. Cameras winked. Suddenly, our private horror was public. The heat of embarrassment wrapped around Claire like a vice. Her face crumpled, not from guilt, but from the realization that the life she'd built on lies was burning down in public view. I walked away then, letting the consequences swell behind me. There was a moment, a single second, when Claire's eyes locked with mine. Something like desperation flickered there, and I knew the endgame had begun. As I stepped into the night, the sound of whispered questions and camera shutters chasing me, I realized revenge had started, but it would demand a cost I hadn't fully calculated. Walking out of that restaurant into the cold night air, I felt both lighter and heavier. Lighter because the secret was no longer mine to carry. Heavier because I knew the fallout would be brutal, for her, for me, for everyone connected. By the time I reached my car, my phone was already buzzing. Messages flooded in from mutual friends, colleagues, even distant relatives. Screenshots and shaky videos of the confrontation had already made their way onto social media. The world was faster than I could have imagined. But that was the point. Claire had built her fantasy life in the shadows. Now she would live with it in the light. When I got home that night, she was already there, sitting on the edge of the bed, mascara streaked down her cheeks. The sight almost broke me. Almost. Her voice cracked. "How could you do that to me? In public?" I laughed bitterly. "To you? Claire, you did this to yourself." I just stopped protecting the lie. She buried her face in her hands. "You humiliated me. Everyone was watching." I knelt in front of her, forcing her to meet my eyes. "Good. Maybe now you'll feel an ounce of what I've been drowning in for weeks." She shook her head violently. "It wasn't supposed to be like this." I thought. "You thought what?" I snapped. "That you could juggle two lives forever. That you could walk out with him and come home to me like nothing happened? You destroyed us, Claire. And now the mask is gone." For the first time, I saw her truly collapse. Not just guilt, but fear. The strong, confident woman I once admired had been replaced by someone small, cornered, desperate. "Daniel, please," she whispered. "Please don't leave me. Don't let them think I'm worthless." I sat back, stunned. All this time, I thought she'd beg because she loved me, because she regretted choosing Jason. But it wasn't about me at all. It was about her image, her reputation, her pride. The realization burned deeper than the betrayal. Over the next few days, the fallout spread like wildfire. Jason's wife found out. Lisa told me later that she'd filed for separation almost immediately. At work, whispers followed Claire everywhere. Clients backed off. Colleagues kept their distance. Her carefully curated reputation was slipping through her fingers. And yet she clung to me. She started cooking again, leaving me little notes, trying to rekindle affection. But it wasn't love, it was survival. She needed me as a shield, someone to stand beside her so the world wouldn't see how alone she really was. One night, she crawled into bed beside me, eyes swollen from crying. "Daniel, I'm begging you, give me another chance. I'll do anything." I stared at the ceiling, listening to her breathe, feeling the weight of her desperation. "Do you love me?" I asked finally. Her silence was louder than any scream. That was the answer. The next morning, I packed a suitcase. I didn't yell, didn't throw things, didn't burn bridges. I simply told her the truth. "You want forgiveness, Claire? You'll have to find it in yourself. Because I can't give it. Not anymore." She broke down, clinging to my arm, sobbing like her life depended on it. "No, no, no. You can't do this. Please, Daniel, I'll change. I'll cut him off. I'll delete everything. I'll prove it. Just don't leave me. Her tears soaked my shirt, but my heart was stone. I gently pried her hands off me and walked out the door. The sound of her crying followed me down the hallway, echoing like a ghost. Life after Claire wasn't easy. Friends chose sides. Family asked uncomfortable questions. Nights felt long and hollow. But there was also relief, like finally coming up for air after nearly drowning. Lisa checked in often, reminding me that healing wasn't about revenge or proving a point. It was about reclaiming myself. She was right. And yet, there was a moment weeks later when Claire showed up at my door again. Her hair was messy, her eyes haunted, her once flawless posture bent under the weight of shame. She fell to her knees right there on my porch, clutching my hands. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I can't breathe without you. Please, Daniel, forgive me. I'll never betray you again. Tears streamed down her face, her voice raw with desperation. For a flicker of a second, I saw the woman I had fallen in love with. The one who used to laugh at my terrible jokes, who once dreamed with me about the future. But dreams aren't enough when the foundation is rotted. I lifted her chin gently, looked into her broken eyes, and said, Claire, forgiveness isn't a gift you demand, it's something you earn. And I don't think you even know what love means anymore. She crumbled completely, sobbing so hard it shook her entire body. For the first time, she wasn't the powerful woman in control. She was just human, flawed, weak, begging. And I walked away, leaving her in tears. Because sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't anger, isn't screaming, isn't destruction. It's living free, while the one who betrayed you is left drowning in the wreckage they created. The end.